1, 2, shoot!
So we're gonna say hi together on this camera. 안녕하세요. 1, 2, 3. 안녕하세요.
Sorry, I was out of sync. Can we do it again?
You said it so fluently last time. Come on, one more try.
You can do this.
One more try. 1, 2, 3.
안녕하세요.
네, 시청자 여러분, 오늘도 제가 성통만사에 와 있습니다. 지금 멋진 인턴 친구분들과 함께 있는데요. 오늘은 호주에서 온 퍼거스 분과 세르비아에서 온 밀레나 양 인터뷰하려고 합니다. 역시 오늘도 영어로 진행됩니다. 많은 시청 부탁드립니다. 시작해 보겠습니다. Hi guys.
Hello.
So,
Hi.
yeah, it's English time now. Can you introduce yourselves to our viewers in English also? And the camera's going to be this one.
Okay.
You can do it.
You go first. I'll go.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Milena. I'm 22 years old. I come from Belgrade, Serbia, but I've been living and studying in France since 2018. I joined Peace Corps at the beginning of July, so I've been here for almost 5 months and I'm leaving soon. I'm part of the research team here and we're currently working on a report on internet freedom.
Okay.
I'm Fergus. I'm 23 years old and I'm originally from Sydney, Australia. I'm currently interning at Peace Corps. I've only been here for 2 months, in Korea for 3 months. I was travelling for a bit, but I'm leaving very soon in just a few days.
Okay, so before PS Corps, what's your major?
So in Serbia, I went to a sort of specialized language school where I majored in French, hence why I decided to study in France. Then I spent 2 years in Reims in France, which is in the Champagne region, like northeast of France. Then unfortunately COVID hit, so I was back in Serbia, and then I did an exchange year in Montreal, Canada, and then I went back to France, and now I'm here. I did an undergrad degree in political science and a minor in international relations. And now I'm doing a master's degree in human rights and humanitarian action. I only have 1 semester left after this.
Nice. For me, during COVID, I was in Sydney, Australia, finishing my bachelor's degree. I did international relations and film studies, 2 majors, 2 very different majors, but it was a very interesting degree. And then this year, I spent 6 months in Cambodia working at the UN Office for Human Rights before coming to Korea.
Oh, so that explains you making videos for PS Corps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the video.
He's good, right?
Yeah, right. Okay. So why did you get interested in human rights or political interests? Yeah. You just said that.
Yeah, because it's my major.
Yeah, right. So why did you
Okay.
get interested in human
Okay,
rights?
so I will start from how I got into political science first. So I told you I majored in French in high school and I first wanted to study French language and literature. But then it occurred to me that maybe I could use my knowledge of this language for something else. And then I discovered my university in France, which was more, I said it's a political science major, but it was more broad in social sciences. And I wanted to sort of discover what I'm most interested in. And then in my second year, we could choose some optional seminars. And that's when I started taking human rights classes and realized that's something that I'm most interested in. And then during my exchange year, I also opted for a minor in human rights across all different fields. I even took theology and like women's studies, sociology, just to see what is out there, to put it that way. And then it kind of crystallized in my head that this is something I want to do. And then I applied for this master's, which is human rights and humanitarian action. So it has 2 components of it. And then I choose a concentration in law, sort of. So I'm doing a lot of human rights law and humanitarian law.
You are studying a lot.
For me, my journey is similarly quite long. Initially, I wanted to be a film director, hence why I studied film. But when I finished school, I did a gap year. I went to Cambodia and Vietnam and saw a completely different world. I'd grown up in this bubble in Sydney in the North Shore and hadn't seen poverty and that sort of thing. So I returned from Vietnam and Cambodia wanting to pursue something else in addition to film. So that's why I chose international relations. And then throughout that, I became interested in politics. And then when I finished that, I still worked out I need to specialize further in something. So I applied for a bunch of internships with the UN. Human rights, I think I applied for 2 of them, a political affairs officer and 1 at a peacekeeping mission, and I got human rights in Cambodia, and I kind of really became passionate about human rights during that internship. and it's definitely the direction where I want to continue going, and that led me to Peace Corps.
Oh, so like Peace Corps, it's more about North Korean human rights, right? So did you get interested in North Korea and the all Korean issue? So when was that?
So for my undergraduate degree, it was a Europe-North Korea specialization. So it was very Western-centric, to put it that way. And then for my master's, it's more of an international perspective, but somehow there's still a big lack of discussion on Asia. That's what I felt. And the only times North Korea was brought up was mainly in terms of security issues or how exceptional it may be. Like I remember clearly a professor saying that human rights are getting improved, but not in North Korea. Like it was really always just an exception, but we never really delved into this issue. So I started thinking I want to see something new. And kind of like Fergus said, I grew up in this bubble, even though Serbia is not part of the European Union and we're not part of the Western world, but still in France, my perspective was very Western-centric. So I wanted to discover something new. And then I was considering where I should apply. And I first started with the UN as well. I applied for Humanitarian Coordination Office in Geneva and in The Hague. But then I was like, do I want to spend time here or explore something new? And at that moment, I met this friend at my previous internship, who's another Serbian girl who did her master's degree in Korea. And she told me, why not Korea? You should consider something new as well.
Okay.
And it turns out that she actually interned here, which I didn't know. We just talked about it, but she never mentioned the name. And then in France, I met a Korean friend who also texted me, Korea is opening up, no more COVID quarantine, you should apply. And then I just applied on a whim. And in the meantime, I actually got some responses from the UN, but at that point, I just set my mind to going to Korea. So I just, flew here.
Wow, okay. And it's been like half a year
Yeah.
already, okay. But I guess,
Um,
how about you?
For me, when I was young, I became really interested in totalitarian regimes, reading a book called 1984 by George Orwell.
I love it.
Yeah?
I wrote my high school thesis on it.
Me too. And I was just so fascinated with this book, this dystopian sci-fi future that just at the time seemed so impossible to me. And then I remember reading the Commission of Inquiry report, 2014 one on North Korea, and I was just so shocked by the similarities between North Korea and George Orwell's 1984, like the Songbun system in North Korea. You've got the wavering, hostile and core class, to me seemed very similar to the inner party, outer party and the proles in 1984, and there was just so many similarities, and I thought I want to work on North Korean human rights because of that.
So before that, how much did you know about Korea?
Well, similar to lots of people in the West, I think really only what you hear through the news, which is like there's this mad dictator Kim Jong-un who's, trigger happy on potentially North Korean
Doing all
nukes,
the bad
and
things.
I think it's very focused on like the nuclear aspect of North Korea and very little about human rights.
So how long have you been in Korea right now?
I've been here for 3 months. I spent 1 month traveling and 2 months here, but I do have to leave because of my visa. So 3 months in total.
3 months. So how's Korea right now to you? Like, how was it traveling?
I really like traveling. I went to a few places. For me, the best part was Seoul, which was where I spent my first week. I like the big city, and Seoul is just such an awesome city. And then where did I go? And I did a temple stay.
Really?
It was really good.
Like where? Gyeongju?
Songnisan?
송리산.
송리산? Where? Sorry, where's 송리산?
Like it's near Daegu, Daejeon, I think.
EX 대전 충청도.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. That's like
Wow.
not normal, but yeah, that's not a normal travel, I think.
No.
I expected like Busan, Jeju, Seoul.
Well, I did do
I
that,
did.
but I wanted to do the temple stay. It looked really nice, and like it was just at the start of autumn, so the trees were changing. And initially, I thought it'd be a nice like resting experience, but I decided to get like the fully planned itinerary, doing like lots of things because I was like, I want to maximize my time, and it was exhausting. I did the 108 prostrations, like where you have to make a bead out of a necklace out of 108 beads, and you're like going up and down, bowing to the Buddha 108 times, and it was exhausting.
I've never done that before.
It was an
Oh,
experience.
So So to Milena, it's
Yes.
more than living, more than traveling, right? In Korea.
When I first came here, my sister was here for a bit more than a month, so we wanted to visit something outside of Seoul. Then we went to Busan for a few days, but other than that, yeah, I've only been to Jeju and Udo with Peace Corps, but spent most of my time here in Seoul.
So you mentioned Jeju and Udo.
Yes.
I've never been to Udo. So you've been there with the event, Pechakucha event. Some people mentioned about Pechakucha event before, but I really haven't heard about it. So can you explain what the event was about?
So Pechakucha was right before I joined. I was doing my interview, and Bada asked me if I'm interested in participating in a speech event. And the thing is, with Pechakucha, it's a very specific format. We had 20 slides and 20 seconds per slide. On each slide, there would only be one image, so it's not like a PowerPoint presentation with bullet points. It's just an image. And the topic we got was a broad topic. It was Korean reunification and human rights. And we were tasked with approaching it from the perspective of someone coming from our own country. So my speech, because unfortunately there are not many, I would say, similarities between Serbia and Korea, I unfortunately had to approach it with the shared history of civil war. But the main message of my speech was how we should focus on ordinary people, their daily reality, violations of human rights, and how we should work more towards empathy and toleration, and why we should care about this issue. And we were, I believe, 5 international speakers. We did our speeches in English, and there were 5 Korean speakers, and one of them was a special guest, a North Korean speaker. And yeah, there were 2 winners, one in the international category, one in the Korean category.
And who was the winner?
So because I won in the international category, that's why I was brought to Jeju and Udo campaign with Peace Corps.
So what did you do in Udo?
So we flew to Jeju. We didn't have a lot of time. We were just taking like a bus tour around Jeju before hopping on a boat, getting to Udo. Then we attended a seminar. Peace Corps booked, it was like a lobby of our accommodation where there were different speakers on the issue of reunification. And then after that, we had some free time. And the next day, we also spent time sightseeing and bringing campaign boards. And it was a really interesting experience for me because I was the only foreigner there.
Really?
Yeah, and even in Udo Island, because Jeju is, I feel, more popular with tourists. In Udo, we didn't see any foreigners. And just this anecdote, we were having breakfast very early, like around 7:30 or 8 in the morning, and I walked in, and the lady who was cooking and serving us, she was so scared. She was like, a foreigner. She didn't expect that, I guess. But yeah, it was very interesting. I felt glad to be included in such a trip, just to have a meal with all of these, let's say, renowned figures in this field, and to have another intern was there with me, so also to have a friend there and to explore something new, which I never thought I would have the opportunity to do. And honestly, the nature was so beautiful. We got to see the sea, the views. It was really an amazing experience.
Wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen that speech. It's on YouTube, which you made.
No, I didn't make the full video. I just did like a short reel of it.
Yeah, I've seen that one too.
Yeah.
So,
Taking the best parts, of which there were many.
So you're making
Thank
videos. And also, what are you doing in Peace Corps?
I've been wearing a few hats at Peace Corps. So initially I came on as a video production intern, and essentially I was just asked to come up with my own ideas for videos, which is why I sort of used some of the older videos that worked really well on the YouTube channel and turned them into like shorter videos. What else did I do? Videos for international days, and currently working on videos to promote an upcoming report, which is really interesting. But then I also migrated a little bit into the research team and wrote a chapter in the Internet Freedom Report on the right to privacy, and then also working on a bit of social media content, so doing a few different things.
Milena, what are you doing right now in Peace Corps?
So since I joined Peace Corps, I was part of the research team, and I stayed in the research team. So the first thing I was doing was, of course, Pechakucha, and then we rehearsed a lot for it. And after that was done, we started focusing more on this report that we've been writing. And Fergus already mentioned how he wrote a chapter. I also wrote a chapter, but then I also wrote another one in the meantime. But yeah, but primary focus has been the report ever since I joined.
Taking an internship in Peace Corps, does it make more getting interested in North Korean human rights? Do you get more interested?
Definitely, because I also didn't know much before joining this internship. Of course, I read up on things before my interview, so just so I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, my main goal from this internship was just to learn more about the situation. And I think what's invaluable is the interviews with the defectors, just reading through their different stories and just realizing all the hardships they've gone through was really an eye-opening experience to me. And I'm so glad I was part of something like that, because access to information on the situation in North Korea is so limited. So just being able to hear it from first person and just to spend time researching and trying to shed light on this issue through this report was a great experience for me.
Fergus, how about you?
Yeah, definitely. It's only natural to become more interested in a subject as you're working on it, but not to the extent that I thought. As you said, there's just such limited information that it's difficult to get more invested in it with working with only like the same information that you might have had for years. When I was in Cambodia, I came to Cambodia not knowing anything at all about human rights, not really. And then over that 6 months, I learnt more because there was so much media attention covering human rights issues, and we were working on issues, and you saw these issues taking place right in front of you sometimes. But here it's just so different. We're not on the ground, we're not in North Korea, we can't see what's going on. And I find South Korea, it's a bit like jarring, the difference. I mean, here, there's an Olive Young on every corner, and like some of the ajumas around here.
It's too different with North
It is,
Korea,
it's too
right?
different, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the hardest part to everyone who's studying about North Korea. You just talked about the next question.
What was it?
It was the difficulty about working with North Korean human rights. And also, I actually want to ask something that was not on the sheet to Fergus. There are some movies about North Korea which North Korean defectors made. There are some North Korean defectors who came to Korea and are filming some movies. So have you had a chance to actually watch some of those?
There was one that I watched, but I can't remember the name of it.
It's okay.
It was like an animated one. It was kind of recent.
So
I can't remember the title there. I'm
like
sorry.
you said, you studied filming and making movies. So are you interested to make anything with human rights issues, or like not just North Korea, but just the human rights issues, or maybe a documentary or something?
I mean, it's like the perfect synergy between my two interests, which is like film and human rights. So I'd definitely be interested in doing that, but it's like a very niche area, and there's not necessarily a lot of opportunities to make films about human rights. But it's definitely very important and something that I'd like to work on in the future.
Are there anything you want to talk about more about the North Korean human rights to your friends or families? Like, they actually, not many foreigners are really interested in human rights, or in particularly in North Korean human rights. So like, to your family and friends, maybe you can say something.
Oh God.
Like, to get a little more interested. It's not just Kim Jong-un and it's not just North and South Korea. It's because it's the only country which is divided into. So
Okay, so what I would tell other people, I know it can be interesting it can be difficult to get into this issue, and Fergus and I have been discussing this, like, what is our position here? Since we're not Korean, we don't speak Korean, we're trying to help the best way we can, but we're wondering where is our place in this issue. But I think what we can focus on is at least raising awareness as foreigners, and also just trying to focus on ordinary people who live there. Try to think of, when we talk about sanctions, maybe we can ask ourselves who these sanctions are targeting, who has it the worst, what's the situation like on an everyday, on a daily basis. Maybe try to listen to the defectors' interviews, and there have been quite a lot, not just by Peace Corps, of course, from Peace Corps as well, but just try to listen to their stories and the hardships that they went to, and how resilient they are, and how willing they were to fight to have a better life. And yeah, just focus on the more humane perspective and try to separate the people from the regime and don't give up so easily. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you.
You stole what I was going to say.
Like to the Australians, maybe?
I don't know, I'd probably just move beyond what you hear on the news, which is just about Kim Jong-un and his nukes, and find out more about human rights in North Korea. Look up what Kwanli-sos are, the political prison camps. Not many people know about that, but they're pretty horrific. And yeah, I guess it's all about raising awareness and learning more about the specific violations that occur in North Korea.
Okay, thank you. What do you want to do with your future?
It's $1 million question.
Like you're working so hard, you've already been a half a year and you're going back. So what do you want to do after this internship?
Okay, so for me, the first step would be to finish my master's degree. And as I said, I only have one semester left in France. And then I've been debating what I want to do. So far, most likely I will do another full year of internships just to build my experience, because I've noticed that employers usually ask for at least 2 years of professional experience. So just in terms of that, that's something I would want to do. I had a great time in Korea, so I was also exploring the options of maybe finding a way to come back here. But for that, I would first like to work on my Korean. Or to start learning Korean systematically, to put it that way, and I think that would help me in trying to pursue something in Korea. But so far it's very vague. I don't have a specific plan on what I want to do.
Okay. Good luck with anything you're going to do.
Thank you. I will need it.
Okay.
For me, I'm very organised about my future. I like to map it out.
Okay.
and
You've got plans.
I'm
I do
trying
have plans,
to, but
I never keep to them, but I just like to have the plans there.
Okay.
So next year I'm doing a master's degree in international law, looking at human rights and humanitarian issues as well. Master's degrees are very important in the work that we sort of want to do. So I'm doing that in Sydney, and then perhaps working for my Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Australia. They have a really good program there. And then maybe after that, like I really want to work at the UN.
Oh, same. I should have mentioned that. We overlap in so many.
But the UN is very notoriously difficult to get into. Like the entry-level position is a P2, requires 2 years, it's like pretty much post-master's experience. So one of the avenues that I'd explore is like a UN volunteer, which is still paid, but you're doing like the same position as like a P2, but you're just getting paid less. So maybe doing that as well before eventually moving to that P2 position.
Okay.
Hopefully the same.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah, you're gonna get there. Okay.
If possible, could you leave your message toward the human right of North Korea in your mother tongue, please?
Okay. Pozdrav svim mojim ljudima u Srbiji. Želim da vam poručim što se tiče ljudskih prava u Severnoj Koreji. Znam da je situacija dovoljno teška u Srbiji, ali ako se ikada nađete u prilici, razmotrite kako je drugima, pogledajte kakva je situacija. Priče su zaista teške kada slušate one koji su prebegli odatle. Tako da vam savjetujem da ako se nađete u prilici pogledate neki intervju što se tiče onoga šta su rekli i naravno posjetite Koreju ako ste u mogućnosti, nećete se pokajati. Pozdrav!
That sounds
Nice.
sexy. Wow.
Thank you. It sounds very like similar to Russian.
Yeah.
Right?
So that was all. You guys were so nervous before the interview and it's done. So how do you feel about it?
I think it went well, right?
I don't know. I mean, it might feel that way, but when you see it on camera,
Yeah,
No, you did
I'm
a
worried
good job.
how it's gonna turn out on camera, but so far I think it's been well, and the atmosphere has been good, which we have you to thank for.
yes.
It wasn't overly formal, and we didn't feel too much under pressure, so it was a good
Yeah,
experience.
you did a great job.
Thank
so
you.
It's on me. And Fergus, how was it?
Similar.
Like you make videos, I was quite nervous.
Yes, I make videos, but I never am on the receiving end of like being in a video. I make sure that I'm not. 'Cause
Okay.
I don't think it went fine, but it all depends on how it actually looks on the video because it's so different.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make it good. So
That's okay.
no
Thank you.
worries.
I'm not going to watch it because I'll be too
That was me
embarrassed.
after seeing myself for Petra which I was like, do I look like this? Is my face this serious?
That was all for the interview, and you guys are leaving so soon, right? Okay, so
I'm
maybe-
sad for leaving Korea.
Yeah, you should come back. And maybe if there's a chance, maybe we can meet again.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. 시청자 여러분, 인터뷰를 마치려고 합니다. 언제나 영어 인터뷰는 좀 떨리네요. 시청자 여러분께서 어떻게 봐주셨는지 모르겠습니다. 한 번씩 이렇게 인터뷰를 진행하면서 정말 세계 각국에서 많은 외국인들이 한국과 또 북한의 인권 문제에 대해서 관심을 갖는 것이 정말 감사할 뿐입니다. 시청자 여러분께서도 더 많이 관심 가져주시고 응원 많이 해주셨으면 좋겠습니다. 감사합니다. So can you say thank you in Korean?
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.